So, I lived by myself for almost a decade. And then all of a sudden, I'm in a house with 5 other people and 2 dogs and a cat. So, when we're pushing the cart around at Costco, sometimes my eyes bulge out of their sockets.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 143. We're Finn and Emma, and today we get to talk to our second ever poly quad on the show.
Yeah, this one, again, is bringing in some former faces of the show. Jason, David, Christy, and Rebecca from Monday.
Yeah, so if this is your first ever episode, or if you just haven't missed the previous guests, I guess, you can go back and listen to Jason in episode 46, Christy and David in episode 72, and Rebecca from Monday, episode 142.
However, not necessarily required reading to follow along here.
Listening, you mean?
Yeah, that's, So it's still a great conversation, even if you're coming in blind, but you would get some more backstory. So quick foreshadowing, they're all living together. They have been since the beginning of COVID. And it's a super fun, just discussion about how 4 adults actually turned into 6 adults, all living together, and how they make it work. They play, how they've gamified it, turned one of them into a furry, all sorts of
things.
It's
a super positive experience, and you're going to love this story.
Yeah. Before we jump into it, we just wanted to take a few quick minutes to talk about a couple of community things. For us, we know that right now, community is hard to come by, that we can't meet people in person, and we've been doing our damnedest to try to bring people together virtually and any number of different ways. But one of them that we've really been enjoying is the last few months, we've been doing virtual speed meet and greets. And the next one is September 19th. And you can find out all the information on how to join over at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the meet and greet tab.
And just to be clear, these are open to everyone, not just our Patreon group. So if you want to join, please, it's $10. Come join. We'd love to have all of you there. And they're growing each month.
Yeah, last month we had over 30 people, and they've been growing pretty steadily. So we're super excited to see who all joins. And there's some more information on what exactly these are if you go back and listen to basically every previous episode or go read about it on our website.
Yeah. So. Next up is our Patreon. So we have a MeWe chat with our Patreon. So if you want to look for a community and just in chat, it's a super supportive group. We also have a monthly Q&A that we do with our patrons. And the next one's going to be on September 30th at 9 p.m. Pacific and again at 9 p.m. Eastern and again at 9 p.m. Pacific.
Double time. You can come to both.
Yeah,
you can. Get two parks for the price of one.
And then we also have a women's group. The next call will be on September 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. All of that information is on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com.
Click on the Patreon button.
Yes.
And thank you to all of our existing patrons. We absolutely love the community that you've helped us build. And we're over 100.
Woohoo! Over 100.
So thank you seriously to everybody for making it a place that we enjoy being and something we look forward to every month.
Yeah, and before we get into the interview, we just want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor, Alt Playground. They are an amazing, open-minded, and great place to meet other people.
Yeah, it's an online dating site, which is what Emma was dancing around there.
Yeah.
She didn't want to tell you, it was foreshadowing.
Right.
Build the suspense. But we're excited to be a part of what they're building. One of the things that we love about them is they are super inclusive and diverse. They've got 9 different gender identities you can choose from when you set up your profile, 9 different relationship statuses,
8 relationship types, and 13 sexual orientations.
And so, as far as we know, that is the most diverse and inclusive website on the planet for meeting other open-minded people. And again, we're excited to be on there. We're excited to be helping them build and spread the word.
Yes.
If you would like to learn more or join,
go to their website, altplayground.net or go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the Alt Playground buttons.
And while you're over on our website, you go ahead and click on the Contact Us button. Send us a message. Let us know how you're feeling. Tell us how much you love us. We'll tell you how much we love you. Maybe even come on the show if you want. We'd love to have your story. To be honest, Jason, David, Christy, Rebecca, they're all just average Joes. I mean, they're a little above average. But they're just people like us.
They're normal
and
people.
You, so, you don't have to be some Will Smith and Jada.
Although if you're listening, we'd love to talk to you.
Same to you, Dan Savage.
Yes.
And so, with that, we will let you get along with your listening. We'll stop pecking at your ears and enjoy this wild and crazy ride.
Let's jump in.
Well, welcome, everybody. We've got our second quad interview ever.
Yes.
So we're super excited to have you all here. We've got Emma live and present here on my end, and then
I'm nothing special.
Arguably,
well,
that's
I mean, I'm on every episode with you. That's what I mean.
but live from Southern California, we got a whole quad of people living together. Do you mind all roundtable introductions?
I'm Rebecca, and I'm
from episode Monday.
Yes. I'm Christy.
I am Jason.
And I'm David.
Awesome.
And we've got all previous guests. So like we said, Rebecca was just a couple of days ago. Jason was on episode 46 way back in the day.
January 2019.
Yep. With a former partner, Val. And then we've got Christy and David. They were on episode 72. So we've got a whole bunch of returners, but things have changed a little.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's all we have time for today. So
end of episode.
So, I mean, maybe take us, what is the dynamic?
Let's start currently. What does the dynamic look like? And we'll peel back the layers.
So we have David and Rebecca, and David and Christy and Jason. And
Jason and Rebecca kind of mess around.
Why?
Jason
because
and
we
Rebecca
can't
like.
Leave the house.
Yeah.
That's not the only
That's not the only thing.
It's definitely
It was an accelerator.
Yes, for sure.
It's something that I think was already there. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you for that. Thank you for going through and explaining the dynamic, I guess. So you alluded to the fact that you all live together right now.
Yes.
But that was not always the case.
No.
How do you mind, I guess, giving a little bit of background of how you ended up in this situation?
Sure.
It's a story in 4 parts.
Yeah. we might each have to take a turn.
Sure. In the fall, we started talking early fall, like September maybe?
Yeah.
We started talking about Rebecca, David, and I moving in together. He was at her place about half the time, and we all just really got on and was like, we should live together. So we did a trial run in November.
It was December. Yeah. So we did a trial for about 3 weeks because I was just feeling really scared that it would work out well. So I ended up kind of partially moving in for 3 weeks, and everything we all synced up pretty great. And then I went back to my house and put in my notice and then moved back in January. Yeah.
And so you were added to the Christy David abode in January officially, but trial run December.
Yes.
And then Jason started hanging around.
Right. I was like, I hear there's a party here.
We actually moved into a house. We were in an apartment in March. The three of us, when she moved in January, we knew we would be looking for a bigger place in March when our lease was out. And Jason and I
was asked. Christy asked me when they first started looking for a house, hey, do you want to go in on this? And I was delighted. And I was like, no. Because I had been living by myself I think since I separated from my ex-wife in 2011, and I was just very dedicated to living by myself. Like I really enjoyed living by myself, and it was something that I saw myself continuing to do. I love Christy, and I love these guys too, but I just kind of had it all. I had my whole plan of just being by myself and having my separate space, but also being able to kind of hang out with these guys as well. Mm-hmm. And I think when you guys were looking for this place in January.
Yeah. Luckily, we found the place in January. So when COVID hit, we had already signed the lease.
Right.
Everything was just waiting for the move-in date, which was really, really helpful.
Yeah. And how it changed was, I think part of it was COVID. COVID changed it. In that we had to split up into two pairs.
I got sick.
Yeah.
So I got, we are pretty certain I had COVID. It was in the early days, so there wasn't a test.
He's not baller enough to get a test.
I wasn't sick enough. I wasn't sick enough to go into the hospital. I did the over the phone interview with the doctor, and the doctor said, "Yeah, stay home for 2 weeks. Don't leave your house. You're going to have your food. You can have your groceries and food delivered to your house. Don't even walk around your block." Which I had zero desire to move off the couch. It was so exhausting.
They really knocked you out.
But because of that, Christy went and stayed with Jason so she could keep working. And then it was just me and Rebecca in the house. But we were, for 14 days, we were completely separated.
Yeah.
They stopped by and visited at a distance from the sidewalk while me and Rebecca stood at the front door to talk, just because we couldn't see each other. And that was when
it sucked. But yeah, I think getting the chance to live with Christy for 2 weeks and then just kind of seeing, like, I helped these guys move in. I helped them set the place up, helped them build furniture.
We saged the house together.
Yeah, and I'd spent Christmas and holidays with them multiple days, and I was just like, man, I love these guys. I want to be with these people. And so it became more of a logistics question of like, okay, well, what's the best way to kind of slide into this or to kind of on-ramp into this? I was worried about not having my own like alone time. You can have time to yourself in a room, but there's somebody in the other room or in the living room when you're in the bedroom. I was worried about that, but it just never really seemed to be a problem. I think we'll probably get into the details of how we kind of manage day-to-day life around here, but that was really just how it started. And once I started dragging stuff from my condo is like 10 minutes from my house. So once I started dragging stuff out of it to come kind of join me as I stayed here, I became less and less attached to the condo and more attached to just living here with these guys. And I didn't want to quarantine and not be able to see them. So that wasn't a viable way of dealing with it for me. So yeah, I took the jump, and I've never been happier.
And we wanted him here too.
Yeah.
And I think too, when I moved back in with David and Christy in their condo, we have family dinner a lot. And, Jason was always over. I mean, he was probably over for dinner 3 times a week before we even moved into the house. So it was kind of like, I feel like that was ramping everything up because we were just all around each other so much. So I think you couldn't leave it.
It's breaking bread with people, right? Like you get to know people over a meal so much better than you do from like dating profile or just hanging out at a bar. It's like when you sit down at a dinner table multiple times and you get past the first couple times when you're just doing small talk, you get to really know people over food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think maybe one logistics question would be, you bowed out. You said, no, I don't want to live with you guys. So presumably they bought a house, not factoring in the fourth. Rented a house, not factoring in. Not factoring in the fourth human that would be living there.
Yeah.
And now we have 6.
Yep. We leveled up a couple times.
So we had bought or rented. Now I'm saying it. We had rented a 3-bedroom that had a kind of a bonus room, the sunroom. Mm-hmm. and then with each of us having our own room.
That was the
Right.
intention, that
Yeah.
each adult, me, Rebecca, and Christy, would each have our own separate space.
Right. For our own dates, for privacy, for just all of the things.
And then when Jace moved in, now I just float between David and Jason's room.
It's our room.
It's our room. I say that just to separate. But most of my room is really mine and Jason's room. Is our room, but
Because that was how it was
That's how it
decorated
was-
and put together before Jason came in. Right.
Yeah.
we've added to. I feel like we've added to.
Oh, yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
So our room, and then I bounce. Just we do every other night. So every other
Yeah.
night I go to David's room. Rebecca, and when the place we found was great for the three of us. It's still
Mhm.
great, but her room and bathroom are kind of on the other end of the house. So that's
It's wonderful if that was too quiet. It's just nice for privacy and just for separation, especially with 6 people. The house is not huge, but it's big enough where we can all kind of be in our own area and be uninterrupted by the other people in the house. Like we have the 3 bedrooms. We have like a little bonus room in the front. We have a lovely patio in the backyard. So like everybody can kind of be somewhere.
the bonus room. Became the teenagers' room. In May, we found out that David's 14-year-old was coming to live with us, which is wonderful and it's being great. But that happened toward the end of June.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the bonus room got converted to her room. And then pre-COVID, my sister was planning to move to California and had already given notice of resignation at her current job and had already given notice at her apartment, and then was coming to California. So what was going to be crashing on our couch for a couple months is just extended. But we decided she's staying with us. We're going to move to a bigger place from here, and so she has her own dedicated space as well.
Yeah.
And she's going to stay because she loves the communal living.
So in grand total, we have 6 people living in the house. 4 of them interconnected with sex and romance. One being a 14-year-old girl, and the other one being one of my best friends, Brandy, who we talked about in our first meeting and our first interview, is the one living with us, the one that set us up.
Yeah, David's best friend that set us up. So
yeah, wow. That's amazing.
Quick timeline recap. So January, we found the place, right?
Yes.
March,
the 3 of us.
The 3 of you guys moved in.
Yeah.
April, you got sick.
April, I got
April,
sick.
the beginning of April.
Mhm.
April 1st.
Mid-April, you got unsick.
And David
Recovered.
And then shortly after that, you and I removed back in to finish off April. And then May...
May was just
No,
May.
May was
May
just
was just
May.
May.
May was just May.
And then June,
Brandy got
Brandy
here in
joined.
June. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then
July was,
July,
or mid-June, was
Mid-June,
essentially
Joe
yeah.
joined us.
Yeah. June was Brandy and JoJo joining us.
But ever since then, everything's been stable.
Right, yeah.
So like for the last 2 months.
So the moral of the story is, if anybody needs a place to live, reach out. We'll put them in touch with you guys, and you'll take them in.
We're all full up right now.
Okay, so now that we've got the
Wait, I have a quick question.
yeah.
Jason, do you still have your condo or did you get rid of it?
No, I still have my condo, and one of my closest friends is renting it from me.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So that you can always go back there if you need to, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I worked out an agreement with them. I was like, so if this doesn't work out, my couch is comfy. You can't lie to me about that. You're keeping it. So there's always that. But
Awesome.
it's been great.
Awesome. Okay, so we kind of have the foundation laid for this. So how? I guess thinking about doing this, what have been some of the challenges that you've come up against? Because I imagine it hasn't been perfect, or maybe it has been. Maybe each of you, right? Nothing's perfect. I imagine maybe each of you speaking to like things that you found challenging, and maybe on the flip side, like what has been your favorite part about the experience of all living together?
I'll start. My favorite part is that we are all living together. Like right now, I'm an extrovert, and so worldwide quarantine is one of my definitions of hell. And thankfully, I get to spend it with people I love, people I get along with, people I'm happy with. We have great food all the time. The chores are broken up real easily. Everything just kind of flows really well. We got really lucky. We caught lightning in a bottle. The hardest thing for me is to understand that sometimes even I need to take today for myself. I need to go into my room and watch a movie, read a book, play a video game. I need to shut my brain off and for just a few hours, pretend like no one else is here. Mm-hmm. That's the hardest struggle for me because I'm extroverted and I'm supposed to be keeping everybody happy and everything going and the camp morale counselor. Sometimes I need to go just break off.
Yeah.
I'll go. I think the biggest challenge for me has been logistical, but I'm learning as I go. So, I lived by myself for almost a decade, and then all of a sudden I'm in a house with 5 other people and 2 dogs and a cat. So, when we're pushing the cart around at Costco, sometimes my eyes bulge out of their sockets because I'm like, God, how much bacon do we need? How much bread? How many loaves of bread do we need? Because I had my system down. I was pretty just like lean with my just my monthly spending or my weekly spending on groceries and supplies and stuff because I was the only person using these things. So I had a pretty good read on what I was going through quickly and what was lasting me a long time. So really just kind of having to adjust the mental scales of grocery is, this amount every week, every couple of weeks, and we need to load up a big cart full of stuff. So, I think part of that is also just, I'm originally from England and I'm still not used to seeing floor to ceiling, aisles of stuff, the entire, the cereal canyon and the mayonnaise wall. I'm not used to these things still. So it's kind of weird to shop that way, but it's also pretty fun. So that was the challenge for me, I think.
And COVID adds another level because you're stocking up for even more than you normally would.
Yeah,
because we only grocery shop every 2 weeks.
Yeah, for 6 people.
Right. Yeah. And I think
that's got to be like a $2,000 bill. And you don't have to disclose the number, but it has got to be significant.
No, surprisingly not.
It's really...
Financially, I'd say it's worked out enough.
I think I spend less money now than when I lived alone.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you're sharing stuff,
financially.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is cheaper when you pull resources.
Yeah.
And I think the fun part, well, I mean, there are many fun parts. I see it myself as having gained immensely from having made this pretty drastic lifestyle change. But one of the most fun things for me is watching this group of people become a system together to tackle problems. And I feel like when I face a problem or when I see a problem, it's not just me facing it. I have 5 other super smart brains. The 2 dogs and the cat don't really contribute much, but I have 5 other super smart brains to help me problem solve with stuff. And this can be emotional, it can be logistic, it can be professional. I feel like we all bring our problems to be solved, usually over dinner, and we troubleshoot and we help each other out and we give each other perspectives. I've benefited immensely from the different perspectives of everybody in this house and the experiences that they've had and that they literally bring to the table. So I would say that's the most fun part. And one of.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, the best things is kind of like what David said, is just being with everybody. I lived alone for most of my 20s, except for when I was living with my ex, and that was about so half of my 20s I lived alone. Never wanted to live with anybody ever again. And so to come from that and kind of shift into living with 5 people, it was really scary at first, but it's actually so much easier than I could have imagined. And it's also that we all want it to work out. So just seeing everybody else, everybody putting in effort to make sure that we fix, argue or discuss arguments and just work together on stuff. I'm trying to figure out what the hardest part is for me, and maybe someone else has an idea. You've
been real good about asking for time when you need it.
Yeah. I sometimes I kind of realize a day too late when I need space. So I kind of have like a real explosive day. And then I'm like, oh, I need to just not be around people for a couple hours and not hear anything. That, I guess, is probably the biggest struggle I've had. But for the most part, it's just wonderful. It's all great. And, we've figured out a way to put all of our chores onto this app. And we've kind of created a game out of it. And possibly the game maker wants to talk about it more. I don't know. But we just have like a list of chores and we just pick which one we're going to do. So we're not like assigning chores to people. There's not a chore wheel or anything. It's kind of like we're all adults. So we just see that a chore needs to get done and we do it.
The trick is you give each chore points. People go crazy for points. And I use Trello. I'm a big fan of Trello. And so, I was able to configure Trello so that it's tracking points for us. And so we can see our point totals. And we don't have goals set up or anything. It's just you pick a chore and there's XP. We call it XP in this house. Yeah. So we're earning XP. We're grinding for XP. And so each chore has XP. You move it into doing, and then when it's done, you move it into done, and then it records it, and everybody celebrates. So like, hey, you got 25 XP. It worked. It started. It was just a quick experiment. I was like, I wonder if I could do this because I have 5 confined brains to experiment on here. And we tried it, and it's just really stuck. And now everybody in the house is on it. So even the 14-year-old is like doing dishes for XP. I'm like, that's the biggest.
That's awesome.
And now we know the real reason Jason moved in was so he could run human experiments.
We tied in her allowance to the XP.
We monetized her. So she is motivated a little.
Your turn.
Oh, is it my turn? Yes. The best part, there's so many good parts. I feel like that timing and the choices we made prior have just made us so incredibly fortunate for COVID because we aren't isolated. We have each other. And I'm very grateful for that. And I love having a crowded table. So getting to have, we have dinner together less than 5 times have we not all had, even when it was the 4 of us, the 5 of us, and then the 6 of us, have we not all had dinner together? Yeah. Which is really wonderful to me and fulfilling. I think that just constant play. We play a lot. We play a lot of board games. We play a lot of video games. Yeah. We just enjoy
puzzles.
Yep.
We puzzle a lot. So
Christy and I puzzle a lot.
We're at it.
David got me into D&D. I've never played D&D before. And now I'm a furry.
Slippery slope.
Slippery cliff face. I fell right down into that one.
So that's fun. I think, challenging for me. It's been challenging, not bad challenging, but something that David and I started years ago is prioritizing date nights with each other before we were even open. And then I think that's something I've tried to carry. We always did it. And that's been challenging to carve out. It's been just had to be creative to carve out time that is focused time with just 2 people separate from the crowd.
For all your listeners, artsandculture.google.com. They have like 20,000 museum tours online, and they have like Google Street View, so it's like VR. You can go around and like take tours and stuff. That's been really helpful.
Oh, that's awesome! So you can go on a virtual tour for your date night.
Yeah, so we like grab a blanket and go out in the yard and get a bottle of wine and go tour the Van Gogh Museum and.
Or we go and we'll get on YouTube and look up which one of our favorite artists has a full concert on YouTube. And so we'll go sit out and watch a concert outside out back.
Yeah. So just ways to that's been challenging, but it's kind of just forced creativity and so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I have a logistics question, I guess. Are all 4 of you working from home as well? Because that adds another level of like complexity if you're all living together and all trying to work from home.
Right.
Yeah.
2 are now.
Yeah.
2
I recently got a new job. So starting in July, I started actually going to an office. And I'm very happy to be getting out of the house after the 4 months prior to that. But it is a little stressful, because our household, we try really hard to not have to go to the store unless it's really necessary. We really have limited any kind of going out. So just going out every day to go to work just adds a layer to that. I work in a very small office. There's 4 people, including me. So it's very small, and I have, space from the others, and we're all very careful and everything. So that's helpful, but yeah.
So 3 of us, Rebecca, me, and Christy, all work out of the house.
Yeah. It would be hard if everyone was working from home.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I think that we find it difficult, and there's only 2 of us working from home here.
Right.
It's a very different mindset, and it's been such an interesting 6 months, really, for me, because I've been a remote worker since 2016. I've worked from home, whether as a consultant, or I've worked for full time for software companies remotely as well. And I think right before COVID hit, I was in the job market. I was looking around. I was talking to employers, getting interviews, and I would say to them, "Hey, have you considered making this a remote position?" Because I decided I liked it so much that I wanted another full time remote job. And the number of employees that looked at me like I had 6 heads, like, remote? What do you mean? Like, no, your butt needs to be in the seat by 8:30, like, so that Lumber, can check that you're filing EPS reports. And it's also very interesting, the number of employees that turned around for another shot to talk to me after COVID hit, and they realized, oh shit, we need to reconfigure this, because this thing, we're not sure if this thing is going to stick around or if it's going to pass by. So
right. Now we're actually interested in that.
And you've got
position.
experience, and we know you know how to do it. Yeah,
it's been very interesting. Yeah. I've had several people kind of come back and say, "Hey, yeah, so," and when I asked them, like, "So have you reconsidered on remote?" And they're like, our position has evolved. I know that language.
and so has my salary requirement.
It's been very interesting, these conversations. But I've been fine working from home. I've had to kind of carve out a bit of a smaller space and just get used to not having as much like dedicated, absolutely silent time, because there's other people using the house. But yeah, I think it's worked out just fine for me so far.
Right. So I was a little bit curious on, and I know maybe people haven't gone back and listened to David and Christy's episode or Jason, your episode, but that you all practice a sort of non-hierarchical polyamory. So everybody is somewhat of an equal within your household.
Yes.
But I was just curious on the decision to go from, you and David are married, Christy, and now we're married, and all of a sudden we're adding a bunch of people to our living situation. For either of you guys, was that a difficult conversation or a hard shift, or were you both just like, hey, we're doing it, no problem?
Those kind of shifts for Christy and I have just been how our relationship has been. If you, the last interview, that's all we talked about was the big shifts, the big jumps. The moving in together was one of the easiest ones, because we had already gone through our scale of needing to level up to an adjustment is pretty out of whack compared to most people, I think. And so the moving in together for me was really easy. It was really simple. Even when it went from, okay, it's just going to be the 3 of us, we're getting a 3-bedroom, that'll work, to, okay, now we're adding another person. Even that shift was simple.
Yeah. I feel like it was a good litmus test to the work we'd already done, because we felt pretty strongly we were practicing non-hierarchical poly. It was very important to us. Mm-hmm. We really tried to walk our talk. And I think, to me, it felt like a good litmus test that we had been putting in that work. Because I think if we hadn't have been, when we all started living together, it would have been real evident real quick. But it didn't feel any different, really, except now we just got to be together all the time. Yeah. That was, for me, I was probably
You were getting your dream come true.
I was getting my dream come true because I am actually really introverted, except for my very close circle of people. And with them, I love time together. I probably have the least time actually completely to myself than
And you
anyone.
want the least time.
But I want the least. So by choice, it's totally by choice. I could have more. So to me, it was really just kind of a dream come true to get us all under one roof. So
I would say two things that have kind of stuck out to me as we've been kind of learning and adapting and kind of creating our system for how we live together. Two things have struck me. One is something that I think all of us, a value that all four of us have shared from the get-go, is that people should have a voice in the decisions that affect them directly. Mm-hmm. And so I think that naturally kind of counters any kind of hierarchy. Like I said, Rebecca and I have been hooking up, but the decision to do that was Rebecca's and mine.
Right.
I didn't go to David and ask for permission.
No.
I didn't go to
David and ask for
she didn't
permission.
go to David.
no.
Just the two of us decided.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that helps counterbalance that, I think, is I feel like we've been creating a bit of a shared identity, and we call ourselves the House of Yes and.
I saw that on your Zoom video. That's awesome.
Yeah. We frequently kind of just refer to ourselves as the house. Like, what does the house think?
Yeah.
What's best for the house? How can we make the house better? Meaning the people in it as well as our living environment.
Yeah.
And so I feel like those two things have helped not quash, but it just makes hierarchy unnecessary. I think we make decisions faster and better as a house together,
right? And
also recognizing that if you two want to do that, then that's your decision. As long as both of you want to do that, and you're free adults.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I feel like David and Christy had been practicing non-hierarchical poly for so long that there wasn't really, it didn't feel like a change to me when I started living with them. Like, the way that I was treated was always the exact same. Like, there's never been a hierarchy issue that's come up that I can recall.
Right. I think that was maybe the flip side of that question was sort of for Jason and Rebecca, like, you're coming now into a sort of, right, somebody's home, they've established, whether or not you practice hierarchy or not, you have like, this is our household. Mm-hmm. And now you're like crashing into it and you're like, well, now we're all here. And that could be a very intimidating thing. Like I feel like, and then this is me projecting, right? But it's like, you go to somebody's house to visit them.
Right.
And you're like, well, I don't want to look in your cupboards. I don't want to touch anything. And all of a sudden now you're moving into those people's house. And so the shift from feeling like a guest to like, this is also my house.
Right.
Would be difficult.
It's the little things, right? Like, when I moved my stuff in, like my furniture that I wanted to take out of my condo, when I moved that in, when I brought my books over, my DVDs, brought my Xbox, David's got an Xbox too. Pictures, like all of our pictures are just kind of hung up on the walls all together. It's all mixed. My furniture fits in the living room, and like when we moved it all in, we stood back and we're like, wow, it all just looks like one piece. Either we have the same taste or we just kind of made it work. David and I feel like we're attached to the hip because we mixed Xbox game collections. Like, that was I joke.
They have their own relationship.
They have their own bromance.
But that was a huge moment for me. I was like, I've never mingled my Xbox collection with this.
It's amazing. You're like, no, but you got to try this one.
Right. We became like, curation services of like, oh, you got to try this game. I'll come play this co-op game with me. So it's all of those little things, I think, are just kind of like, they start as leaps of trust, but they made me feel like this is my home now,
Well, like, we had talked a lot before we moved into the house. Like, when we got the keys, we came to the house and it was empty and we saged it. And Jason was there. Like, we included him in all of the things anyways. And from the time we moved in to the time that David and I got sick to the time that Christy and Jason moved back in, there was not the house hadn't really been lived in yet. So like, we were kind of starting with the blank canvas. So it was all four of our stuff that really came together at the same time.
I think you could probably answer his question best when you think about when you moved into the condo.
Yes.
Because you didn't have your stuff yet.
Yes.
Not my condo. This is a different condo.
Previous resident.
Christy and David's condo.
Yeah.
For me, so the trial run was great for this because I found that the more that I touched in the house, the more it felt like my house. So, for example, there was one day I decided to go through all the cupboards and like reorganize and purge. And like just doing that little thing just made me feel more connected. And also I had that little, person in the back of my mind saying like, well, this isn't your place. But then I was just like, actually it is. And I just kind of busted through the door and just tried to have that persona that it is my place. Cause it really was. Any feeling that I had of like being uncertain about, can I have this drink that's in the fridge, was all me. It wasn't David or Christy. It was like, you're welcome to anything that's here. So it was just pushing through that inner feeling of like, well, are they sure? Is it okay if I drink this last beer? But it was always.
And from the,
No, go ahead.
And from the outside, I got to watch you both go through that from the outside because I try to be very vocal and that this is your home.
Mm-hmm.
This is your home too. You need to bring your stuff. You need to nest and make it yours. Mm-hmm. It's ours. It's not, this isn't. So, but watching you guys both like at first be like,
yeah, we both kind of did that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
You were very
not
British about bringing your
I was
stuff
very
over.
British about
I was like, are you gonna bring stuff?
I gave it the required few weeks of just tiptoeing around everybody else before I brought it in. But yeah, for me, it comes back to that group, that shared identity of we are a house together. This might actually be a holdover of just my school. Like when I went to school in England, primary, middle, and high school, and then I came to the States for college. At certain points in my UK school career, I was a part of a house. Like just like Harry Potter has Gryffindor and Slytherin, it's true. The English actually do this. So I was part of a house, and we used to compete in school sports tournaments. The houses would compete against each other. And I would be cheering on my housemates, or, if I had a talent in a specific thing, I would be competing on behalf of my house or representing my house in that event while my housemates were cheering me on. And so I don't know if that kind of laid the groundwork for it, but this is kind of how it feels for me is like when someone brings snacks, they bring snacks for the house. It's not like, these are my snacks, don't touch them. Like, I don't think there's really very many things at all.
Bueno bars.
That aren't Bueno bars. We get fiercely territorial.
I was going to say, does anybody have anything labeled in the fridge?
Yeah. But for the most part, it's like, this is for the house. All of the groceries are for the house. The snacks are for the house. Like it's for that shared identity, which is always in the back of our minds, or at least I feel like it's in the back of all of our minds. And so we haven't encountered any of those kinds of, this is mine, this is yours, this is your area, this is my area type of thing. It's all for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is super interesting, I think, for anybody who's lived with roommates or, Emma and I both lived in groups of 4 or 5 people living in a house together in college. And I mean, there was always fights about like, who drank my milk, who ate my eggs, my name was on this, my name was on that. And everything was a little bit territorial. And it sounds like it's just like once it's in the house, it's in the house.
It's a tribe.
Well, I think that the difference is that we're not roommates.
Right.
Yeah.
We're partners.
And we don't look at each other as roommates. We're all partners. We're all a family. And that makes it so like for me, it's if I'm going shopping for the family. I'm going shopping for the house. I'm going shopping for the tribe. Whatever community word we want to use.
Yeah.
It's
it has meaning, right?
Yeah.
Like it gives that action meaning because you're not doing it for yourself and then turning around and defending the milk against everybody else in the house. You're doing it for, I like the word tribe. We use family, we use group, we use house, all of them interchangeably. But personally, I like tribe because I think it kind of speaks to something, a model of living that is actually much older than we've been taught is viable.
Right.
for anyone listening, the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger, you can read it in a single sitting, and it's an incredible book, absolutely incredible book about the meaning of tribe, of the bonds between people who belong to a tribe. It's a really, really incredible book.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a huge distinction, which is like, while I cared for my roommates and they were my friends, at the end of the day, like,
It's not the same.
I went to the grocery store and spent the little bit of money I was making as a student to buy this thing, and now somebody ate it, versus we're doing this to take care of each other. It's a different mentality.
And we're all contributing too. So
the pooling the resources makes that a lot easier
because we all put in money to the grocery account, and we all make the grocery list. So anything in particular that you want, you just put on the list. Yeah, like it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about do any of you, I know COVID's a little different right now, but like, do any of you have other partners? Is there anybody else, or is it just the four of you?
No. Yes.
So yes with a butt or no with an ad.
Yes and no, but
yes with butt. Yes with butt for sure.
So right before COVID hit, I had gone on a couple dates. I had started getting a very serious relationship going. COVID happened, all the separation happened, and the relationship I thought was going to be super serious died. The first date I had, I'd gone on a date with this girl. We had gone out to a concert. Thinking about it now, it was probably one of the last concerts in San Diego County before the lockdown happened. And then me and her still chat. We still message, but we probably won't ever see each other in person until after there's a vaccine at this point.
The great fucking.
Yes, the great fucking. The great fucking.
The anticipation.
Oh yeah. So on that first date, things were great. Lots of amazing chemistry. We're like, we're gonna make sure that we ride this out a little bit. We won't. We'll hold it out we'll hold tonight to heavy makeout, and then we'll have another date, and then maybe that third date. And like we had it mapped out. We had a movie date a couple weeks ago where we both set up Netflix and we texted while we watched The Secret Life of Pets 2. And at the end, it's a fantastic movie.
Total panty drama.
Yes. And at the afterwards, we were like, the anticipation thing, I think, has gone just a little too far. A bit much, a bit more than I asked for.
Like 6 months, a little bit over the top.
Worst case of
because
edging.
of that, like we won't try to schedule a socially distanced date. Like we won't go sit socially distanced at a park and have a socially distanced picnic because we're both very aware that we won't keep that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
You and Sharon?
yeah, I still have a girlfriend, but we don't see each other, and it's just hard. It's just a distance. Distance is hard, especially on top of all of the other changes and things. It's been definitely challenging.
Yeah.
I had a couple video dates, maybe like 3 months ago, I think, with someone new. Met him on OkCupid, and it's really, really, really hard to get the momentum going of a new relationship purely by Zoom or purely by Google Hangouts. Like it just doesn't get the same. It's almost like starting a flywheel, but this way it kind of just like turns a couple times and it's like, I don't think it's anyone's fault. It's just that I don't think we were evolved to start relationships that way.
Right.
So it's a poor substitute by far.
And I think another one of the stumbling blocks there, which is why I couldn't imagine being single right now. I couldn't imagine being single and living by myself right now. And because one of the stumbling blocks that I've found in general with just the constant low hum of stress that COVID has created everywhere that extra bit of resource it takes to just reach out and say hi to a friend.
It's tiring.
To somebody that you've been really close to right up until that happened is really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep that going right now. And I think one of the blessing and curse of our living situation is if I don't need to. So for most of my other play partners and most of the people I saw casually, I think I've said like 5 or 6 messages back and forth between all of them in like the past 6 months, and vice versa. They haven't been sending it much either because we've all just kind of closed in on the people we house with, we nest with, we live with.
Right.
So maybe that leads into the question of, let's say tomorrow we got news that COVID died off. What changes with the 4 of you living together? Does I guess maybe the more realistic question is like looking forward as the world opens back up.
Yes. That's a little more realistic.
Right. That you now potentially have
the future,
new partners, new things coming in and out, and your closed system is no longer a closed system.
I honestly haven't even been thinking about it. Like, hear me out. So, because everybody's like, you're full of shit. I haven't been thinking about it because honestly, I feel like all of my energy and focus has really been on how can we make our day-to-day better with the way that we're working with each other, with the way that we're treating each other, and how does it feel in this house today? That's really kind of where I've been putting my energy and not really thinking about the future because, God, the future is so uncertain. And I feel like a lot of us bought into the idea, and I don't blame anybody for this, but a lot of us bought into the idea that, this thing will like flare up in like March, April, May, and then it'll be gone by like June, July. And then lo and behold, it's not gone. And we're heading into the fall with flu season, all that kind of stuff. So the future is so uncertain. So for me, it's really just been make the day-to-day better. Don't worry about what the future what a particular future looks like. I trust these people that will talk about it and will deal with it when or if it arrives. But for the time being, like, am I enjoying this? Am I enjoying the day-to-day life around here? I'm just choosing to kind of focus there.
And that's kind of, I know we've talked about it.
Yeah.
One of the hard things, I don't know if hard's the right word, but life isn't hard.
No.
Like when people ask, like, how are you holding up? How are you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm great.
Yeah.
I'm thriving. Like there are things that I miss and there are people that I miss and it's not perfect, but in the big picture, I love my life. I love my life right now, today. I love this life. So I think that I haven't spent a lot of time worrying about what it's going to look like in the future because I trust the people that I'm doing life with. And I trust that, we'll continue loving each other and talking to each other, and change is inevitable. No matter what it looks like, change happens. I think it's just the commitment to show up for each other and be each other's friends, and we'll go from there. Like it doesn't have to be this looming, worrisome thing.
Mm-mm.
You guys talk to them?
No, not really.
Well, me and Rebecca have talked about it. Me and Christy have talked about it
In the sense of the girl I was just talking about, the one who I'm still messaging and stuff, because we've managed to keep chemistry through 6 months of pandemic. We're going to go see each other. But outside of that, there hasn't been conversation because none of us are really looking there. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I'm real curious to see what the first meetups and group events look like. I think it is going to be the fucking. I think we should just put.
We're real serious about that term.
We should just. I'm coining it. It's going to be a thing. We should just put drop cloths everywhere and don't look at blue lights for black lights for a long time because it's just going to be everywhere.
Yeah, if they thought GDP went down now, it would just wait.
I think the logistical problem we would face is that one, there's not a bedroom for the four of us, like all four of us individually. So, obviously having dates back at our house is not really, that could happen, but it's not probable in the current state. But that's the biggest issue that I can think of off the top of my head, because we're all, I speak for everybody, but we're all used to seeing the other people dating.
Right.
So we are a tight little unit, but we're already aware of what it's like when people are dating.
And we've never thought of ourselves as a closed quad or closed anything in the sense that, in the sense of like polyfidelis, where we're the group and this is it. There's no one else. We've never thought of ourselves like that.
Yeah. We all assume that, should dating occur again, that we'll be dating again.
We think of ourselves as a closed unit when it comes to COVID. Right.
Yeah.
But outside of that.
Right. Yeah. Right. Which maybe is COVID drags on another year. Do you end up in a 7-bedroom house with 12 roommates and all of a sudden the room is growing?
No, I don't think so, because most people don't want to commit to. It's easy, from my perspective, it's easy to get 2 people to commit to these are the ground rules. This is what we think is safe. It's an ongoing discussion. It's been easy for us to get 4 people on the same page and then 6. Mm-hmm. But I think capital P people, as you add more, it's hard to get a consensus of this is what we think is safe. Everyone has a voice. Let's all use our voice. Let's all agree, because it very much is a round table. This is what we've decided. These are the protocols we're sticking with. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people want to do that.
Yeah.
I think we also, generally, the 4 of us have a very high level of emotional intelligence, which is really crucial. Like when you were talking about, your college house where you're with your friends and your roommates, like the difference is like the respect level, the wanting the house to be at a certain state. Like we all spent 2 hours cleaning on Saturday all together at the exact same time. And we scheduled that because we wanted the house to be clean.
A deep clean.
And so I think, just finding another person or other people that are able to operate at that same level is just really difficult. I mean, I feel not impossible. I just think it's difficult. And the fact that the 4 of us have figured it out in the way that we have, and then being able to add, Christy's sister and David's daughter is just like a blessing that it worked out so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely say you don't want to live with my college roommates.
Well, it's something I've been thinking about, is that we've essentially created a mini culture here in this house, and like that culture hasn't really been communicated out to anybody else. So it would be, I agree. I don't think it would be impossible to add more people, but the learning curve became a bit steeper because we've had this time to kind of like. And granted, I'm talking about like 4 months, so it's kind of crazy, or 5 months. It's kind of crazy how quickly this can form. But I think we share values, and we've established kind of a group identity here that is kind of its own culture. But the same thing is happening in lots of households across the country, around the world as well. Everybody, because we're not going to the common things where common culture is reinforced. Like we're not going out to bars and seeing the way other people dress and the way other people act, or what music other people are listening to.
Each house is like Galapagos.
Each house, it's almost like capital C culture has just dissolved into tiny little bubbles, and every single bubble has its own take. So I guess that's one of the reasons why I haven't tried to put too much rigidity around my view of what the future looks like, because who the hell knows? As many households as you've got, that's as many cultures as you would be smashing together again and expecting them to be able to understand and relate to each other. So, yeah, error 404. I don't, follow.
Yeah.
I'd say pretty soon you guys will have your own language. You won't even be speaking.
We kind of do. Happens.
We have we have our own little shorthand.
We've got the hive mind.
Yep.
We're we've created our own little closed ecosystem, and I think every household right now has.
Yeah.
So you've created your little closed ecosystem. Even those households that might be branching out a little bit, might be taking more risk, within their risk profile, they're still creating their own culture, their own little ecosystem. For me, during this pandemic, until this is done, I can't see getting to know somebody well enough, even if I've been talking to them every single day, to invite them into the house, right? And then post, if I can't picture what the future looks like, but to me, that's not a goal. It's possible. We might meet somebody. We might, and it could be a romantic person, could be a non-romantic person. There's no telling. But I think for somebody to come in to what we have right now, I think would very much feel like what you were talking about, the struggle of coming into somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Because we are pretty rigid right now. We are pretty, which was why the relationship I was super excited about at the beginning, right before COVID happened, faded away, because their culture and our culture just didn't match when it came how to address things with life right now.
COVID protocol.
Yeah.
Like, other than everything else seemed like it was clicking. There was a disagreement over COVID protocol, and it wasn't a case of like, you have to do what we say. It was just, this is where we are at, and this is the boundary that we're drawing. You make your own choices. It's
Right.
Basically,
yeah.
And that's
Correct me if I'm.
Yeah, well, that's basically it. And the overall decision with that specific relationship was, this isn't feasible to try to repair or to explore or to fix during a pandemic. We're just going to have to call it. And without an expectation of jumping back together when the pandemic's over, but also without any sort of exclusion either. Like, that's not a yes, it's going to happen, or no, it's going to happen. It's who the fuck knows? Because who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. And maybe it's kind of the same question, but part of you moving in, Jason, was I either don't get to see these people or I move in. And it wasn't necessarily quite there, but do you see all of you staying in this type of model once you're not, quote unquote, forced to do it?
Oh, absolutely.
I do. Yeah.
No doubt.
And it's crazy for me to even hear myself saying that, given where I was just a year ago. Not even a year ago.
7 months.
January?
7 months.
In January, I wasn't even here. So yeah, it's been 2020's been a heck of a year.
Right. Well, and now I say now you and David are fluid bonded with your Xbox games. So.
You share vaginas.
That's kind of the house joke. It's like, you guys do share vaginas. Like, it's
Christy and I share a penis.
We share a penis.
There's
Sis.
Yeah.
Sis now.
Right, yeah.
I just update my LinkedIn profile. That's
You should do that on FetLife, not LinkedIn.
well, it depends on what type of job he's looking for.
I have one more question. Well, maybe you might have. Go ahead, David. What were you going to say?
This is what you see, the laughter, the banter, is how we stay sane. It's what we've been doing for the past 6 months.
Games, super help. Super help. Just like I was saying, you get to know people over a meal. You really get to know people over a strategy game. Whether you're playing against them or with them. Like, there's collaborative games out there too. Just when you play games with people, you really get to know them from a different perspective.
The board game pandemic takes on a whole nother meaning right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You had another question?
So have you, what has been the reaction of other people in your lives? So like maybe other families, friends, has there been much of a reaction, or has it been, you guys are just doing this and that's cool? I'm just curious.
Well, for my parents, they've met these guys. We did a few Zoom calls, and they'd met my previous partners as well when I was kind of the middle of a V. So they knew I was poly before, and they've met my partners before. It was still a little bit different, being like, hey, here's the gang, and and then, oh, hey, we're adding people. oh, we're adding another person. Like, my parents are like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, how close are they to Waco?
We will never be Waco because we'll always pay our taxes and never have illegal guns.
There are no illegal firearms in this household.
There's no firearms in this household.
That's always the joke.
We pay our taxes.
Just, NSA, FBI, Chinese listening to our phones.
It's also why I don't talk about adding people to the group, because then I really start sounding like I'm recruiting. I'm like talking about all the great things we offer, the community, the sense of belonging.
Okay. You're getting weird.
Wait, what was the question again?
Yeah, what was the
Reactions.
To be honest, like,
Right.
It's pretty polarizing. You know, close friends who know me, super happy and just fascinated. But most people are just like, oh, weird. You have a group living situation? Oh, weird. I don't get that. And I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot conversational pole. So,
What about you, Rebecca?
You know, as I talked about on Monday, my family's reaction has not been what I hoped for, but they're kind of, you know, slowly warming up to the idea of things. I don't think for most of my family there was a difference between me just dating David and living with everybody. I remember the day that I put in notice at my apartment, though. The next thing I did was go over to my sister's, and I was like, oh, I just put in my notice. And the first thing that she said was, that makes me really nervous for you. So it wasn't like, congratulations, you're going to live with your boyfriend and Christy and have like a family together. And it was just straight to the concern. But you know, in January, I was already aware of how she felt about things. So it didn't really affect me at all in that kind of way. It was just frustrating that.
Yeah.
It's different, so people don't get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
It's different, but it's not new. Like, this is the way, the way that we've structured ourselves and the way that we interact and have set stuff up, I think echoes a much, much older model of how people used to cohabitate. And when I say older, I mean, like, we're talking pre-agriculture, like way, way back. You know, ever since agriculture, it's always been, you know, property and ownership, and only the genetically related siblings or people would live under a household. But prior to that, it was tribes, and tribes weren't always genetically related to each other. And, you know, we could go off in a whole direction about, you know, matriarchy versus patriarchy and dominator versus partnership models. Like, you know, there's a lot of history there, but I found it so interesting to just find the way that this has naturally come together, and how, not to downplay the amount of work, but it's felt easy for me.
Me too.
And it feels natural, and it feels stable to me, and I feel safe. And I think that those are things that everybody could use right now. Not to advocate for it as the ideal model, but I think this is where I found those things for myself.
I think it's hard because people automatically, not even consciously at all, but they project their fears or their insecurities or what they would be afraid of in this situation onto you. And so
definitely.
You automatically get the, but don't, aren't you? But what about, and it's like,
yeah,
no, this is, you know, these are my friends. These are my teammates. No, I don't feel jealous of Rebecca. I don't, we're teammates. We work with each other and for each other.
Right.
So it's hard when you talk to people and if they've not done all of that work and that journey for themselves. There's very few people who immediately are just like, oh, that makes total sense. I can see how that would be awesome.
Right.
Because they don't know, like, they don't see all that's went in to get to the point where it's awesome. Yeah.
And this transition to where we are now has been easy, but that's because we were lucky enough to find a group of 4 people who had, for the past years, been doing a lot of hard work for different reasons. For different,
right.
Rebecca had been doing a lot of hard work before I ever met her. Me and Christy have been doing a lot of hard work since the start of our relationship. Jason's been doing a lot of hard work
together separately.
Yeah, for a long time. So when we got together, the reason I said it was lightning in a bottle is because we were 4 people already on the same level.
Yeah.
And where that level lands is less important than the fact that you're all on the same level and all working to go at the same go in the same direction.
It's the shared identity and the shared vision, I think, makes everything align, or it helps everything to align, because you realize that, man, I'm pulling for this, and I know that they've got my back on this as well. Yeah, it's been so interesting. So, like, small example is, I love Krav Maga. I've been learning it for a few years now. And David turned to me one day and he's like, hey, man, you want to go work the pads a little bit? And so, like, I started teaching David Krav Maga. And then he and I have both started teaching his daughter Krav Maga as well. Because, like, both of us want her to feel confident and safe when she's out and about. And, you know, it's good fitness and it's fun. And also we get a workout out of it too. So, like, the 3 of us just go out back and we train together. And that to me is it's just a small example of, like, shared vision. Like, and, you know, I never feel closer to David than when, you know, we're doing that kind of stuff. It's because I regard him as, like, my brother in that respect.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, somebody's close if they're willing to hold a pad for a series of groin kicks. Because
we have a kick pad. We have a kick pad cups. We use cups.
Anybody who knows Krav Maga knows that it's the main pillar is groin kick.
Right.
So
groin, throat, eyes.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see that. Well, I mean, I think it's amazing, like, hearing how all of you have come together and, you know, welcomed each other and then welcomed the surprise additions to the family. And I think it's awesome. And I guess, is there anything, Emma, that you haven't asked, or anything that we haven't asked of you that you wanted to make sure that the world knew about this dynamic?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we could talk for hours, but for the sake of time, I will.
Yes.
And if any of you have any final thought?
The only thing that comes to me is that it's more a process of letting go than it is pulling up or, like, trying to acquire skills. It's letting go of notions that when you, like, pick at them and tease them apart, you realize, wow, like, I do that just because my parents told me that this was bad, or I do that because I would be ashamed of what these people thought of me if I explored this. Like, a lot of this process has just been letting go. And I think when I say that it felt easy for me, it's not bragging. It's because it's felt like I was climbing up the stairs with a heavy sack on my back, and gradually I've just been, like, taking things out of the sack and, like, letting them go. And all of a sudden, it's easier to climb the stairs now. That's the way it's felt for me. It's been a process of letting go than it has been a process of taking on board burdens.
Yeah.
I think for me, letting go fits, because I actually am the most surprised that we're all living together, I think, because Jason and I took a trip together back in November, and we were on that trip is when I asked him if he would like to live with all of us. And, you know, he said no. He wanted to live alone. That's what he preferred. He did not want to cohabitate.
That was the hardest no I think I'd ever had to say.
And so I released it because I wanted him to feel loved for who he was, and not like he had to be anything or fit into anything for me to love him. And so I really did work hard just to release that, because, you know, I couldn't see how we were going to, I really wanted to do life with him. That's been a big thing, is that I think that when you do life with someone, you build a different relationship. It's those everyday, countless casual intimacies that you build that just builds a different relationship. And I really wanted to experience that with him. And I couldn't see how that would happen if we weren't living together in some sense. But he was like, you know, that's not for me, but we will figure out. I promise I don't know what it is, but we will figure out a way.
Well, I think you said to me, you want to make home with me.
I want to make home with you.
And I think the way I responded to that was, I don't want to live with you, but let's start looking at other ways that we can make that feeling of home together. Because I believed in the same thing. It was that shared vision of, I don't know what exactly home is, but let's start exploring it and trying things that can engender that feeling of casual intimacy.
And so it just kind of went from there. Mm-hmm. So the fact that, you know, we all ended up together is I think something I desired so strongly. And I really love communal living. And I really feel the more hands, less work, and just, I like this kind of living. Mm-hmm. I love building a home and filling it with the people that I love and promoting everyone's best selves and happiness. So it's not always easy, because, you know, we do have conflict, and we do have conflict just in individuals between, and that's mm-hmm. just requires an even greater jump of vulnerability to tell the other people in the house, hey, David and I are bickering and we're mm-hmm. sorry. I know it's really uncomfortable, because you guys can certainly tell that something's happening. We just don't want to drag you into it, because it's stupid, and it's just about me and him, and we're working on it, and we apologize for the discomfort. Like,
do you guys feel like have you felt when that's happened that the rest of the group is kind of pushing you together or supporting you guys through?
No, just holding space for us.
Just waiting.
Just waiting for it, knowing that we'll work it out. Yeah.
So what I would say to anybody who wanted to try living together with a group of people, whether it's romantic, sexual, or not, would be kind of the same advice I have for everybody. First, let go of your preconceived notions. The first thing you need to know is that logistics speaking, when it comes to money, when it comes to grocery shopping, when it comes to all those things, when it comes to raising kids, communal living makes all of that easier, because you have more help.
Yes.
Just make sure that you talk about it. Make sure you make sure that you are clearly communicating the expectations of the household. Make sure that you still practice assuming good intent, and make sure you practice honing a sense of uncertainty, because you're still going to run into all of those problems where that one person did that thing that really fucking annoyed you. And you know they did it on purpose, but they really didn't do it on purpose. So you have to go, that's not what they were doing. And I'm not sure why they did it that way, but it's okay. And I know I'm not right in this situation. And then you have the feelings, you let them pass, and then you have the conversation. But it can be really amazing. It's not going to be what you map out. It's not going to be exactly what you picture. But when you let go, when you release, and then you talk and you communicate, you come up with something that's so much better than you expected.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I want to we want to all be together. We want to all live with each other. We want to do things with each other. So COVID or not, this is what our wants were. We were all on the same page with wanting it. So it makes it easier. It makes the cleaning the house easier. It makes doing the dishes easier, because we're all here because we all want to be here. And, you know, I think I just remembered this, like going back to the struggles, like one thing that is a blessing, but it's also really difficult, is like, if you're having a bad day, or you feel, if you're just having struggles, it's nice to remember that the rest of the people in the house are right there with you, and you have your team. You know, like, we're not against each other, we're for each other. So it's just really nice to have that community, because, you know, out in the world, it's so different, but we know that in this house, we are all here for each other. And if anybody's having problems or needs something, like, all of us will gladly assist. So that's just something that's just wonderful with the dynamic that we have.
And we all chose this.
And yeah,
no one was forced into it. No one was backed into a corner. There was no plural relationship at the end of a ultimatum or a gun. We all chose openly this life together.
Yeah.
And I think that when you come at it from that angle, and there is no pressure to do it, there is no force doing it. Mm-hmm. It's not done out of any, we have to do this. Yeah. It just makes it.
Yeah.
it's a choice. And so we just choose each other every day.
Yep.
It's interesting to me how there's a lot of things in the way that Western society is kind of set up that emphasizes separation and isolation of individuals from each other. You know, like we each have our own cars on the road. We don't take a ride with, like, remember before Uber, like the parents' advice was don't get in a car with strangers. And nowadays we pull up our phone and like hop in a car with a stranger to take us where we need to go. Like a lot is set up in our world where we're almost isolated from each other. Like, you know, genetically related families are supposed to live in houses, not, you know, somebody from the outside or not some kind of group living situation. That's weird. We have front lawns that like push us away from the street. So, because God forbid we, you know, end up talking with somebody that's walking by. It's like there's so many ways in which we're isolated from each other, and I think that's where I kind of come at it from this idea of letting go. It's letting go of the stuff that we've been conditioned to accept as normal, and just evaluating it on its purely on its merits and what it's doing for you. If it feels better this way, then it might be a better fit for you.
Yeah.
Also, it's fantastic when you get 5 adults together who all cook and all cook well.
Oh man,
It's like the COVID 119.
Awesome. Well, I mean, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
For sharing. I mean, you're all so wise, and everything you say is very thought out. And
yeah, no, everyone's so well spoken too. It's incredible, and it was a delight to talk with all of you.
Yeah, same. Thank you guys for setting up this platform.
Yeah, we love chatting with you.
It's important to get these pictures out there.
I think so.
You know, what are other people doing? You know, not even is it right or wrong? Is it right or wrong for me? It's just what are the possibilities? And I think you guys have captured. You got the encyclopedia going. So
this is still the only podcast I have the attention span to listen all the way through.
wow, well,
You're at the podcast all the way through. Can't listen to a single other one. I've tried.
Well,
that's impressive.
That's a pretty big compliment. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you. And I mean, again, thank you to all of you. And hopefully we can, you know, do a follow-up in a year, and you know, we'll have people send in their predictions of how big the house will be, how many members will be in it, and we'll do like a pool. So,
and hopefully we can do it around a big pitcher of sangria.
Yes, please.
Yes,
that sounds fantastic.
That sounds amazing.
Let's make that happen. So
Yes.
people wear your masks so we can make that happen.
Yes, please.
And like we always say, you know, the show doesn't happen without all of you. Of course, now you've cumulatively had 4 episodes between all of you, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay.
It's a
Wow.
quadrilogy.
Well, have a wonderful evening, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, good.
Good talk.
Bye.
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 And we're back.
I think we're going to add a few people to our apartment. We have room for at least 5 more.
Wow. We live in a really small space, so I don't know about that. But,
but
it would be cozy, and we all work from home. That would be tough, but it would be fun.
Yeah.
It'd be super fun. All the games we could play.
Yeah. All the chores we could do. Thank you.
Fun to be had.
Thank you again, all of you, for joining us and for sharing your story and being such positive, uplifting, and having a great outlook on everything. It was refreshing in a time where I think some people are losing hope. Not me personally, but maybe me personally.
We got to try to stay positive. Well, yes, thank you so much to all of you. And if you missed any of their other episodes, again, links to everything are going to be in the show notes. So go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the podcast button to see show notes.
You can also click on the links for Alt Playground to help us tell them thank you for sponsoring the show.
Go check them out.
Yeah, super diverse, super inclusive, and super badass. So please help support us by supporting them.
Yeah.
And support yourself by meeting other awesome, supportive people.
Even virtually for now.
Even virtually. And next week we have an episode, believe it or not.
That we didn't write down.
We didn't write it down, but I remember what it is. Do you want to guess?
No, I got to think about it for a second.
Nikki?
Yes.
Nick.
Nikki.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say one other person that's coming up in 2 weeks, but not that person.
No spoilers. So yeah, next week we have an episode with Nikki. Again, fantastic episode. Bringing the demographic of guests, the age down.
Yeah. She's in her early 20s and talks to us about her amazing story.
Yeah. So we're super excited to share that with you. And we're super excited to see you at the meet and greet on September 19th. Be there or be sad, really.
I was going to say be square.
No, be sad. They'll be sad if they're not there.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We will see you in a week.